Welcome to the second feature breakdown video for Man the Guns. My name is Dan Lind and I'm the game director for Hearts 4. The focus today is going to be on all the big naval changes happening in this expansion. Naval combat has also changed quite drastically. On the surface level, we split up into two phases. So you're going to now have your task forces chase enemy task forces visibly on the map before even combat happens. And this is the case where we can simulate things like German raiders escaping and that kind of stuff. As for combats, we completely redone the interface as well, so it's much clearer now, the roles of different ships, and it lends itself to historical compositions of your fleets a lot better as well. Also, to add some drama and cool stories to naval combat, we added a critical hit system. So for example, your fancy battleship might take a hit to its propeller, drastically reducing its speed. And of course, you're going to have to adapt your strategy to this. Do you leave it behind when you need to run with your fleet? Or are you going to make sure you have enough escorts to bring it back to be repaired properly? Speaking of repair, there's going to be a big shift in the way your ships take damage. Instead of these very decisive battles, we're pushing more in a direction where your ships will take a lot of damage, probably make it back to port to be repaired. But repairing is now no longer free and takes quite a lot of work. So you have to dedicate dockyards. We have a fully new interface for managing all the repair. You can decide which ports are safe to repair in, for example, how to prioritize them. And this creates a whole different kind of layer of gameplay where you need to make sure that you take care of your fleets. You can't just use them as a one-off. You need to be careful with them. Now, combat damage isn't the only way your ships are going to take damage in the game anymore. There's a whole new mechanic about mines, so your ship might have been hitting enemy mines as well. This is sort of a way to add Conquest of the Seas kind of gameplay as well. So you can both sweep mines as well as place mines, and both for defensive and offensive reasons. So for example, mining your coastline is going to make it harder to invade it. It's going to help you there. But as a minor nation on the offense, but maybe not with a fleet strong enough to challenge Britain, can be dropping mines in sea lanes, that kind of stuff. Costs a lot more for the big nations to clean this stuff up, to save their convoys, than it does for you to sneak them out in the night. So this adds kind of asymmetrical gameplay options for weaker nations, where they've normally not had a lot of options in Hearts because of the size of certain nations' fleets. To help elevate the naval gameplay and give more options to players, we're adding a new ship designer to the game. That means that you yourself can decide what kind of capabilities your ships are going to have. For example, a destroyer can have anti-aircraft guns, you can have main armaments, you can have torpedoes, you can have anti-sub. So lots of different options. And all of these kind of come with trade-offs. So up to you what kind of designs you want to do. If you want to have a destroyer that can do everything, have a couple of different destroyers optimized for certain tasks. This goes for any ship class as well. Of course, when it comes to a battleship, you're probably going to be seeing how many guns you can cram on there. Speaking of big ships as well, they come with a big investment, so you might want to improve them in the future as well. So we're adding refitting, which means that you can send your ships back into the production and have them refitted with stuff. And depending on what kind of size here, it will take different kinds of time. So just slapping on some anti-aircraft fire, not a big deal. If you're going to be switching out turrets, that's going to take you a long time. But maybe that's time you want to spend to modernize your old navy. When it comes to your admirals, we've done a similar thing that we did in Waking the Tiger for your generals there. So you're going to be able to groom your admirals now with traits and new skills. So we have 3 different kinds of traits. We have earnable traits, and these are the kind of things where you're fighting in a certain terrain or a climate. So for example, your admiral become better in Arctic waters. Maybe he's really good at hiding in the shallows or in the archipelagos. The more you fight in these kind of terrains, the better you're going to be at them. This can give you a bit of a home advantage, for example. Then there's the stuff that really lets you tailor your admirals, and these are the assignable traits. So these are the ones you pick yourself. And that means you can sort of plan ahead, for example. Examples here is a concealment expert is kind of a perfect match if you want to have a submarine heavy force. It lets you fire torpedoes and fade into the night without as high a chance of being detected. course, if you're running a big fleet with carriers, you might be picking skills more attuned to that. Now, one of the biggest, most important jobs for the Navy is to support your invasions, and we have another feature to help with this as well. Amphibious landing vehicles. Now, these come in two flavors. You have the mechanized infantry carrying ones, and you have the more tank-like ones. And the idea is that these will help you crack the really tough beaches late in the game, but they're also going to help you, say, in Russia when you need to get across a big river heavily defended by the enemy. Now, there's also several smaller features that tie into the naval theme. So, for example, you'll be able to train your navies in peacetime. You, of course, also will be able to train your air force now as well. There is new diplomatic options, so you can request docking rights from the neutral. So, for example, as Germany, you'll be able to run your submarines out of Spain to reach into the British Empire easier. There's also more control over actually where your shipping routes are going. So you can mark areas that you don't want them to go through, or if you marked as too dangerous, meaning that you can effectively add another layer of strategy onto the submarine warfare here, because you can concentrate where you want your routes to go. You can move them around if the enemy has too easy time to go there, for example. Of course, this will come with trade-offs and costs of amount of convoys you need and that kind of stuff. Man the Guns is going to introduce fuel as a new resource. Now, fuel is used by your most powerful units, your Air Force, your Navy in particular, tanks and trucks. And this is a kind of resource that you need to think about when you're going to use. So pre-war years, it's very important to build enough stockpile of the fuel, because it's going to be hard to get access to it once you go to war with people. Depending on your side, of course, the Allies might have an easier time here. So it really becomes this strategic layer of when should I be using this powerful resource on stuff, and when should I be deploying all my armed forces. I can't really put my entire fleet to work all the time anymore, because then they're going to eat up your entire stockpile of fuel. Now, you have a lot of control over the size of your stockpile as well, so you can build silos, you can build refineries to help out if you don't have access to oil directly in the world, or you don't get enough from trade, for example. I think this is going to really shake up people's strategies. You're going to need to think quite differently on when you need these resources and how much of them you're going to need and when to use them. So that wraps up this feature highlight video. We've been talking about a lot of the different changes happening to the naval gameplay in the Hearts of Iron, and I hope you look forward to actually playing the expansion.